Hi everyone, it's Brianna back for week 5. In this week's reading, we got to read about how Meisner reshaped what it means to act truthfully. One of the things that stood out to me is the way Meisner's work completely redefined what acting is. In Brant Pope's chapter of Redefining Acting, acting was described to be behaving truthfully under imaginary circumstances. Instead of trying to show emotion by pretending, Meisner trains actors to focus on the other person, their scene partner, and to use that focus to drive the performance. Another thing that really stood out to me from this week's reading was the repetition exercise. This is an exercise I am very familiar with because I actually did this exercise in my Acting 2 course when I was an undergraduate, and it was quite something. Most people recognize Meisner for his repetition exercise. In this exercise, 2 actors would be sitting down across from each other and repeat what they observed from their partner. Something like, "You're smiling," "I'm smiling," and you just go back and forth over and over again. Now, this exercise sounds easy, but I can tell you from a personal experience, it is not. It is a lot more difficult than you think. And not only that, but it's also mentally draining as well. Personally, in my experience, what we did is we would spend weeks doing the very first couple of steps of Meisner's method for the repetition exercise. And we would just go endlessly for weeks, and it drove me nuts. But I'm actually really glad that I learned from this week's reading that I wasn't alone in this stressful situation, because the students at the neighborhood playhouse also participated in this exercise for very long periods of time. In fact, they did 3 hours a day, 5 times a week. Now, in my experience, I only had to do it for 2 hours a day, 2 days a week. I could not imagine doing that exercise every day for 3 hours straight. That would have drove me nuts. Despite this exercise feeling like torture, the point isn't the words, it's the truth that happens between them. You start to really see the other person across from you, and you learn to respond honestly, moment by moment. Meisner also believed that emotions shouldn't come from memory. Instead, it should come from imagination. Although Meisner didn't reject emotion memory entirely, he did believe that imagination was a more reliable and endlessly renewable resource for acting. If you continuously use a traumatic memory for inspiration, that memory will lose its impact on you. Think about like your favorite song, your favorite Taylor Swift song, or whatever famous artist that you like. If you continuously listen to that song over and over again, it's gonna lose its impact on you. It's no longer gonna be your favorite song. In fact, you might even learn to hate the song because you've listened to it so many times. And the same could be said for emotion memory. When you use that emotion, that memory, no matter how traumatic it is, over and over and over again, it's going to lose its impact. It's no longer going to have as strong as a reaction for you. But imagination is different. It keeps creating new emotional experiences that the actor can use that never go bland because they are always new. Meisner encouraged actors to visualize specific, detailed scenarios that could trigger genuine emotional responses. For example, imagine reuniting with a loved one, that lightness and happiness that fills you. By using imagination, emotion stays alive and spontaneous instead of rehearsed or forced. I think that's why actors can perform the same scene night after night and still feel fresh, because their emotions are newly imagined every time. If I were directing a high school play using Meisner's approach, I think I'd start with the same repetition exercise. Though I hated this exercise as an undergraduate, I understand its usefulness. It teaches students to listen, not just to wait for their cue, but to really connect. Instead of asking, "How does your character feel in this scene?" I would ask, "What are you trying to get the other person to do?" That simple shift can make my students' performance more natural and more honest. Though I did not like him at first, I've learned to love Meisner's technique because of how it reminds us that acting isn't just pretending, it's about responding truthfully. Whether it's on Broadway or in a high school auditorium, that truth is what makes theater come alive. Thank you.